It's Earth Day. In Washington, President Joe Biden pledged to world leaders that the U.S. will cut the nation's greenhouse gas emissions in half by 2030. Part of that relies on a transition to electric vehicles. Amanda Vinicky joins us now with more. Amanda.
Brandis, another presidential promise. Biden, via executive order, wants the nation's fleet, so that would include vehicles like mail trucks, to be clean and green. It's not just the White House that is looking to reduce gas guzzlers on streets and on highways. Governor J.B. Pritzker today also signing an executive order, this one requiring that future state leasing and purchasing of vehicles be for low or zero emission vehicles. Now, electric cars are not the default yet.
Is it happening today? No. But, we see a better understanding growing. We see more and more models being introduced, and we see a lot of policy supporting it. Like, states like Massachusetts and California have banned the sale of internal combustion engines after 2035. You have seen car manufacturers like General Motors also say that they're not going to manufacture any internal combustion engines after the same date. So there's definitely a trend towards that.
Right now, however, there are some bumps in the road. The Environmental Law and Policy Center's Susan Mudd says some of that will clear up as electric cars are normalized.
We're all used to driving to gas stations, but people aren't used to thinking about plugging in their car overnight in their garage or in front of their house or in front of their apartment building. As more of these are literally seen, people will understand that it's not really such a huge change.
It is a change, but she says a minor one, and one way to clear the coast for that, more charging stations. President Biden also has a promise there, promising 500,000 charging stations going up across the country.
This will both allow drivers to plug in, but it also will relieve one of the major problems right now that we have for electric vehicles, which is range anxiety. People are afraid, even who want or already own an electric vehicle, that they're not sure they can get to where they need to go because they're not sure that at the other end of their trip, there'll be someplace to charge up their car.
Just a bit ago, we met Meg Houghton. That is exactly what the company she works for, EV Box, does. It makes charging stations, and they are manufactured in the Netherlands, but also in suburban Libertyville. I asked her, are these charging stations used in Illinois?
We hope so. We hope that more of these chargers are used in Illinois. We're bringing state-of-art technology here. We're manufacturing super fast chargers, 350 kilowatt chargers. Illinois currently has almost 2,000 charging ports or so needs to maybe install a lot more.
A whole lot more in order to make good on those 2030 goals. Of the 4.5 million total cars driven in Illinois, only about 27,000, she says, are electric. But the goal to have 750,000 electric vehicles in Illinois by the year 2030. And Megha says that means Illinois would need about 98,000 more charging ports within the decade. Now, Daniel Horton is a climate scientist, and he's focused on solution-oriented approaches to solving what he describes as the climate crisis.
About 17% of the US greenhouse gas emissions come from the transportation sector. And so a natural remedy would be to stop emitting CO2 while we get ourselves around via vehicles.
Now, one of the models that he did showed that if a quarter of drivers of light duty, so just normal cars, converted to electric vehicles, the US would save 250 gigatons, yeah, that's a term, of carbon emissions. He says from a climate and carbon perspective, the adoption of electric vehicles is a no-brainer.
If we adopt electric vehicles, our carbon emissions will go down. They'll still exist in the form of fossil fuel-based electricity generation, but it'll be much lesser than the individual vehicles that people drive today.
Horton says there's another benefit too.
So in addition to emitting CO2, your internal combustion engine vehicle can emit particulate matter or other pollutants that eventually can be harmful to breathing. And so the removal of those pollutants from the tailpipes of your vehicle can have significant health benefits to society.
And so while we've thus far focused on personal cars, efforts are also afoot for that transition in the public transit arena. Earlier this month, the CTA debuted new electric buses, and the ELPC's Susan Mudd says these are quieter and cleaner. They've got these buses going on the Chicago Avenue, Route 66, that goes from Navy Pier to the west side.
It goes all the way to the west side of Chicago, to neighborhoods, frankly, that have more air pollution and more health problems and more historic impact from air pollution.
Now, meanwhile, Illinois does have money that is set aside from the few years back, that Volkswagen diesel emissions settlement, and that money is supposed to be used to help to purchase the more expensive electric school buses. Now, so far, really only a handful have been purchased. You've got 3 that are driving around being used in the Chicago area, but Mudd says $10 million that has to be used towards something along these lines is still sitting, well, idle in a fund. And advocates are frustrated that the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency hasn't spent that money to buy more electric school buses. I did reach out to the state EPA and got no real answer as to why that has stalled. By the way, this transition to electric vehicles, as we noted, there is legislation before the Illinois General Assembly, and not everybody is on board with that. Really no surprise. Gas station owners have concerns, but also one of these measures would require charging ports in new residential construction building. And that's something that the Home Builders Association of Illinois is against. So Brandis, happy Earth Day, back to you.
Happy Earth Day to you as well, Amanda. Thank you.